In a dusty town bordered by rice fields and narrow stone paths, there lived a boy named Ravi. He was 16, the kind of age where dreams feel infinite but mornings feel impossible. His parents worked hard, his father as a bus mechanic, his mother as a weaver, and every day they woke before the sun. Ravi, however, was different. He loved sleep, deep, uninterrupted, late morning sleep. His alarm would ring, birds would chirp, his mother would knock, but Ravi stayed curled under his blanket, chasing dreams instead of daylight. He told himself he was more creative at night, more focused in the quiet hours. But in truth, most of those hours were spent scrolling his phone or thinking without direction. His grades were average, his energy low. His motivation came and went in waves, always crashing before he could act on it. He often wondered why he felt so sluggish, so behind, like he was constantly running to catch up with life. One morning, after a particularly rough week, Ravi's teacher called him aside. "You have potential," she said, "but your mind is always foggy. Why?" Ravi shrugged. "I'm not a morning person." She paused, then smiled softly. "Neither was I, until I learned that the way you start your day shapes everything that comes after it." Ravi didn't respond, but that sentence stuck with him like a pebble in his shoe. That night, as he scrolled through videos, one thumbnail caught his eye. "Wake up at 5 a.m. for 30 days and change your life." He clicked. The speaker wasn't shouting, just calmly sharing how early mornings brought peace, focus, and clarity. Ravi scoffed, but he watched the whole video. The next morning, out of pure curiosity, he set his alarm for 5:30. He didn't believe he'd wake up, but something inside him stirred. The alarm buzzed at 5:30 a.m., sharp and unfamiliar. For a moment, Ravi's hand moved on instinct to hit snooze, but he paused. There was a stillness in the room, a kind he had never felt before. No traffic, no voices, no notifications, just silence and the soft hum of the ceiling fan. He sat up slowly, blinking against the dim light filtering through the curtain. His body protested, his eyelids heavy, but something about being awake while the world still slept felt different, sacred even. He didn't know what to do at first. There were no school assignments calling him, no urgent texts. So he did the one thing he hadn't done in months. He stepped outside. The sky was a deep blue, shifting toward gold. The streets were empty, the air cool. He heard birds, not the harsh ones that screeched later in the day, but soft, tentative songs that sounded like the morning stretching awake. Ravi walked down the path near the temple and sat on the old stone bench. A stray dog blinked at him and went back to sleep. For 20 minutes he just sat, breathing, not thinking, just being. When he returned home, his mother looked shocked. "You're up?" she asked, a half laugh in her voice. Ravi nodded. "Just trying something." The rest of the day felt smoother. His mind was clearer in class. He didn't drift off during lectures. And for the first time in a long while, he finished his homework before dinner. He went to bed early that night, not because he was trying to change his life, but because he wanted to feel that stillness again. And so began a quiet experiment. No one knew he was doing it, no one needed to. But every morning, Ravi woke up just a little earlier. By the end of the first week, Ravi had begun to notice things. Not dramatic changes, but subtle shifts that most people wouldn't see. The way the morning light felt gentler on his skin. How his mind was sharper during his morning study sessions. How breakfast tasted better when he wasn't rushing. And how, for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was living his day instead of chasing it. His friends didn't understand. "Why would you wake up early if you don't have to?" they asked. Ravi didn't try to convince them. He just smiled and said, "Try it once, you'll see." But what he didn't say, what he was only beginning to understand, was this. Waking up early wasn't just about time, it was about intention, about reclaiming the first quiet moments of the day before the world intruded. It was about choosing to rise while the rest of the world slept, not to be better than anyone else, but to be better than the version of himself that kept hitting snooze on life. And maybe you're like Ravi once was, maybe the mornings feel heavy, maybe the thought of early wake-up seems pointless. But what if you gave yourself the gift of one quiet hour? What if that single change created space for focus, for peace, for becoming? This channel isn't about forcing transformation, it's about sharing quiet stories that plant seeds, seeds of change, of reflection, of action. If Ravi's story resonates with you, take a quiet step forward and subscribe. Not to impress, not to chase trends, but because your mornings belong to you. The morning soon became Ravi's sanctuary. While the town still lay in shadows, he had already started his day. with purpose, with quiet, with space. The boy who once dragged his feet out of bed was now walking before sunrise, letting the early light guide his thoughts. He didn't always do something productive. Sometimes he read a few pages. Sometimes he just sat, listening to the wind or the soft hum of life awakening. But the difference was undeniable. His days no longer began in chaos. They began in calm. As this new rhythm settled into his life, other things began to change too. He started drinking more water, eating healthier, organizing his room without being told. His teachers noticed he was more alert, more present. Even his father, a man of few words, commented one morning, "You've been up early a lot lately. It suits you." Ravi smiled, because it wasn't just about waking up early. It was about who he was becoming in those hours, before the noise, before the pressure, before the world could define his pace. There were still days he struggled, days he wanted to stay under the blanket, to ignore the alarm, to return to comfort. But he had learned something crucial. Discipline isn't about perfection. It's about remembering why you started, even when it's hard. And the more Ravi showed up for those mornings, the more they showed up for him. One morning, about 2 months after he first set his alarm for 5:30, Ravi found himself awake before it even rang. He lay there for a moment, eyes open in the quiet dark, and realized this wasn't just a habit anymore. It was a part of him. He slipped out of bed, tied his shoelaces, and stepped outside. The air was cool, the sky barely blushing with the first hints of dawn, and for the first time he didn't feel like he was escaping anything. He felt like he had arrived, fully present in his own life. As he walked past the tea stall, he noticed an elderly man sweeping the ground. The man looked up, surprised. "You're up early." Ravi smiled. "I've started liking the silence." The man nodded thoughtfully. "The world is different when you meet it early. It listens more." That line stayed with him all day. In school, a younger student approached him. "My cousin said you wake up before sunrise. Is it true?" Ravi nodded. "Why?" the boy asked. He thought for a second, then replied, "Because it gives me time to be myself, before the world starts telling me who to be." He didn't say it to sound wise. He said it because it was true. That evening, as he wrote in his notebook, he glanced out the window at the setting sun and realized something else. The early mornings weren't just shaping his day, they were shaping his identity. He had become someone he admired, not because of titles, trophies, or applause, but because of discipline, because of choice, because of a simple decision made before the sun. Ravi stood at the edge of his rooftop, watching the sky melt into orange and gold. The town below was beginning to stir. Roosters crowed, shutters opened, bicycles rolled across the narrow lanes. But up here, in this moment, there was only stillness. He breathed in deeply, not just the morning air, but the sense of self he had quietly built over the past weeks. A boy who once hid from the day, now met it with calm eyes and a steady heart. He thought about the time he used to lose, the hours wasted in bed, the sluggish starts, the rushed mornings. But he didn't regret them, because those lost hours had made this discovery sweeter. They had made him hunger for the peace he now cherished. Waking up early hadn't solved all his problems. It hadn't erased struggle or made him immune to doubt, but it had given him a weapon, clarity. Clarity to choose how he wanted to live, clarity to hear himself before the noise of the world began. And in that quiet space, he had found something most people miss in the rush of life: presence. As the sun climbed higher, Ravi opened his notebook and wrote a single sentence at the top of the page. "The most powerful thing I ever did was show up for my own life, one morning at a time." And now, before this story closes, there's a question waiting for you. If you gave yourself 1 hour, just one, before the world woke up, what kind of person could you be?